Okay, so the night before you want to make your bread, you make your leaven. And so all this is 1 tablespoon of starter, 200 grams of a 50-50 mix of white flour and wheat flour, and 200 grams of warm water. Okay, and I have that right here. Tablespoon of starter, your 200 grams of flour, and 200 grams of water. Then we're just going to cover it and let it rise overnight. So I'll meet you back here in the morning. Okay, here I'm getting my 700 grams of water, and the way I do this, I want filtered water, and the filtered water isn't warm, so I do cups in the microwave. I just do those little cups and pour them into a bigger carafe until I have my 700 grams of water. Oh, and you do want to make sure that your water is just warm, not hot. Okay, so here I have dumped the 700 grams of water into a bigger bowl, and now add to that 200 grams of your leaven. And so I had gotten a little more than 200 grams, so what I do is just kind of pinch little bits of it out until it equals the 200 grams. And now the fun part, you're just gonna mix this in with your hands. I mean, you could use, I have used a whisk before, but you know, it just gets all caught up in the whisk, and I just find that this is the easiest way to mix it up. So when I pulled out the 200 grams of leaven, this is how much I was left with. And so it says to save this, because this now makes up your new starter. Now I do still have starter going over here. I normally would only have one, but since I'm giving you a starter also, I've been feeding 2 of them. So now we have a dilemma of, okay, there's all of this, and this is one that I would keep over those 2, just because it has set out all night and it got nice and, you know, it was bubbly. And so I'll probably put one of those in the fridge, and I'll give you this one, and then the other one I'll keep feeding for myself. So now what I do is, in a separate bowl, I do my flour, and you need 900 grams of white flour and then only 100 grams of wheat. And you just kind of have to play around with it. I had too much white here, so I'm putting some back. And then, so you should have a total of 1,000 grams of flour. Okay, dump all the flour in. And I know you could probably do this with a wooden spoon if you want, but it says to do it by hand. And so you're just going to turn from the inside, keep turning until there's no dry parts left. Okay, you can see how sticky it is, but if you can tell, I've gotten all of the dry and the wet mixed together. So then you just kind of clean off your hands. With my other hand, I'll push as much of this off as I can. And then it says, let me just see real quick. It says to let it rest for 25 to 40 minutes, so I usually let it rest for 30 minutes. Alexa, set a 30-minute timer. And I do cover this with a towel so that gnats, you know, or bugs won't end up in there. Now for the next part, you're going to add 20 grams of salt, and I like to use the coarse salt, but you can use sea salt or whatever you want, and you can just sprinkle that in with the dough. And then the last thing is 50 grams of warm water. And then it says to squelch it with your hands. So you do this just quite a bit to make sure you incorporate all the salt over the water. And I need to use both hands so I can hold both. Okay, now move it to a clean bowl, and this is where you're starting your first rise. So I like to put mine in the microwave, and then every 30 minutes we're gonna turn it. Okay, my 30-minute timer's going off. So what I'm gonna do is wet my hands, just because it's such a sticky dough and it helps it not stick to your fingers. Alexa, stop. And then you're just gonna pull it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you just pull it from each corner and then pop it back in for another 30 minutes. Alexa, set a 30-minute timer. Okay, so this is my very last time to turn it. And notice the difference. It's nice and elastic and it's kind of risen a little bit. And so now, when you're done with that, you're gonna sprinkle some flour onto your little board there, your mat, and you're just gonna dump all of that nice, beautiful dough out. And then this is where you can use that tool that'll come in your kit that you just bought. Not kit, but you know what I mean. And a little more flour on top, because like I said, it's super sticky. And just divide that in half. So these are gonna be your 2 loaves, and just kind of turn that over and over a couple times to make a nice little ball. And do the same thing with the other one. And then you're just gonna stick a towel on those and let that rest for 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, now here's the last thing you have to do. Here's your bantam bowls that you're gonna get in, and they will come with little covers. It kept sticking to my cover, so I just use these little towels. They're like washcloths, and they seem to work the best for me, but you can try the little covers that it came with. And then you just sprinkle it with your rice flour. And then I usually sprinkle just a teeny bit of white flour in there also. And now for the folding part. And they call this an envelope fold. And so you just do 1 loaf at a time. More flour, so it doesn't stick too bad to your hands. And you're just gonna stretch it out into kind of a nice long rectangle and fold those ends toward each other. And then you're just gonna fold the other 2 ends in together. And then flip it over, put it in your bowl. And then just do the same exact thing with your other loaf. Now is the start of your last rise. So again, I popped both of those in the microwave for 3 to 4 hours. Okay, this is another thing you'll need, a nice heavy-duty Dutch oven. So now it's been, I think, 3.5 hours. So you set your oven to 500. And you pop in your Dutch oven to get nice and hot with the lid on. And once my oven's heated, then I'll show you the rest of it. Okay, so once the oven has preheated, I usually look at these, and if one of them is a little more risen than the other, then I'll take it first. Bring it over here. Alrighty, so now what we're gonna do is just flip this over and pray this comes off easily. Yay. And then what you want to do is score it. And I bought this whole thing together. It came with the 2 bowls, it came with this, and one other thing. But anyway, and you can get creative if you go on Pinterest and look at ways to score it. But I usually just go straight down the middle, and then I do almost kind of like I'm thinking of like a tree branch kind of thing. Just do like that. So you can kind of see what the top looks like over here. Okay, now it's going to go in the oven. Okay, so pull this out, remove the lid, pop that right in gently, put the lid back on, and bake it for 20 minutes. And then you're going to take the lid off and do 20 minutes more. And then it's done after that. Oh, big important thing is knock this down to 450. So it's been 20 minutes, remove the lid, And this is what it should look like. And then let it bake 20 more minutes without the lid, and there's your beautiful loaf. Enjoy!